in a fit of nostalgia, I pulled out the rules cyclopedia, as I often catch myself doing, and strolling down memory lane and thinking about those sweet level 1 to 36 experience level progressions. And I ended up doing a bit of a deep dive lately into Mystara, which I did not know much about in the old days. So catching up now, late to the party as usual. And I found that online on archive.com, archive.org, I guess it is, you can download most, maybe all of the 25-year-old or more, I guess. Is that the cutoff date? Materials. I think that's legal because it's so old. I'm not sure. Anyways, I found KingsFestival on there, which is B12, I believe. B11? B11 of the basic series adventures. And I printed that sucker off, and I wanted to do a bit of a review on how that went. So I've been going through this adventure, and it's meant to be a beginning adventure for new players and new game masters. It tells you how to get started with your characters, how to pick your equipment. It explains all the basics of combat there, like time and movement, experience points, awards, how to describe dungeons, and run your NPCs, running combat. Like it's quite thorough, which is great for new players. I didn't use any of this stuff really, but it does come with 7 pre-made characters, which is nice. There's the saving throws and combat sequence and weapons, damages, armor classes. That's great. There's the characters, pre-generated characters, 7 of them. And then we come to the adventure meat itself. So this dungeon is actually kind of, it's almost 2 adventures. It's 2 levels of the dungeon. The second one being fairly different than the first one, and you're kind of expected to kind of leave and take a break between the dungeons. As written, we've got the level 1 dungeon full of orcs. I think there's 7 plus 4 plus another 4, 5. There's almost 20 orcs in here, and there is no easy, the way this is laid out, there's no easy way narratively I can see that your characters would leave to heal and come back and find it in the same condition you left it. There seems to be it's kind of like an outpost, or almost a living, I guess maybe even a permanent living space as written, where the orcs are. So I would see them getting reinforcements or finding allies, or at least setting a whole bunch of traps before the characters come back to harass them. So I kind of saw this as a dungeon that needs to be done in a single swoop, and that being the case, it's near impossible with all those orcs. I've run this twice now, didn't finish it either time, just kind of got halfway in, and with 4 PCs, this is a death trap. You wouldn't make it past the second room probably, the second combat encounter. I, however, ran it last night with 8 PCs, 4 players, each playing 2 PCs, and they really flipped the table, and they were stomping the encounters quite easily. They didn't even take damage by their second encounter. They got to the ferret room and dispatched, so they dispatched the guards, the guard room, 3 orcs with ease. No damage taken, and then the ferret scenario encounter in the water cavern. So overall, it's a great little adventure. It's well laid out, but it felt like they missed some opportunities. For instance, in the second room, when you come in here and you go to room, if you ever go to room 2, it's a storeroom, and it's designed to have all the adventuring gear that your PCs may have forgotten to buy. Being new players, you can get your rope here if you forgot to buy it or whatever. There's a couple flasks of oil in there as well. However, you find a kobold in there, And according to this, it says a small creature jumps out from the barrels and lashes at you with his dagger. He's about 4 feet tall, looks the dog man, blibbity blah. The kobold will surrender as soon as it is hit and beg for its life. Now it's got 4 hit points, so there's a good chance it's going down in one shot. And it speaks in kobold. The chances of your players knowing kobold is somewhat slim. It certainly was with both my parties. We only had 2 guys with intelligent modifiers enough to have an extra language. And they didn't choose kobold. They chose goblin and orc, which is better choices in my opinion. Always better choices. Maybe not for every adventure, but and he says that he's a slave to the orcs and knows nothing about the dungeon, and he will run away if he's allowed to. Now, that seems like a missed opportunity to me. That's a big one. Right away, he's not going to try to fight them. He won't take a hit and then surrender. I wrote it in, I modified it so that he surrenders immediately and says that he's a slave. And why is he a slave? Why can't he just run? There's no justification for that here, so I modified it to have the orcs are holding his mate captive deeper in the dungeon. So he has to do their bidding to keep her alive. That's keeping him here. He does know about the dungeon. He knows everything about the dungeon because he moves around in here being their slave, taking out their bedpans and moving the food around or watching the stores or cooking for them. He knows exactly who's come and who's gone, and the adventure has Erlich, the cleric, being kidnapped and drugged further into the dungeon here and being held. So this kobold absolutely knows what's going on here. So if the characters befriend this little guy and don't dispatch him or let him run away, well, he won't run because his mate is still captured. The kobold asks, being for new players, kobold will straight up instigate and say, if you help me, I'll help you get back at these orcs. So right away, we've got intel on the dungeon. That will make this much more manageable, since it's such an overwhelming force of orcs. Like if you go into the next room, there's 7 orcs there waiting. Can you imagine 4 first-level characters fighting 7 orcs? You gotta have some strategy, either at least some intel, and then you have to use the environment to funnel them one at a time or something like that. A straight-on fight, you'll never win that. So that was my first major change. The kobold is your intel. Second major change is Erlich has been kidnapped. I added 5 known other townsfolk have been kidnapped as well, and they are being held with the female orcs. The female orcs and young live in this chamber here. I put it so that the females, all the kidnapped people from the town are also in there. They're chained to the wall. Erlich is beside, this is the throne room of the orc chief. They have Erlich chained in a dark closet here. I moved him out and into the torture room. There's a orc chained to the wall here being tortured by another orc lieutenant. I put the cleric in there, being convinced, in quotes, to help the orcs by casting heal on them after their raids. Erlich is holding out so far. He doesn't want to heal any orcs, but he's getting tortured for his insolence. I moved him there because this is such a grind. The characters have no healing at level 1. They won't have their cleric can't have the healing. There is 1 potion you can find in here, which is nice. But I wanted to have Erlich a little closer to the midway point, so the characters can get healing before they go into the final boss room and fight the chieftain and his magic user sidekick. Okay, so that was another major change I did to the setting, to the dungeon here. So you get your intel from the kobold, and you can get healing midway point, kind of 2/3 way point on the first level right there once you find Erlich. The other big change I did was I added stairs. As you can see here, if I bring it up, I made it so that this guard room steps, coming into the hallway, you step down 4 steps. And then this is all on a sunken level. Then you step up 2 steps to this hallway and the rest of all this. And then you go up 2 more steps to be in this room. And then there's 2 steps up to the chieftain's chamber. Okay, so that puts this room, and this room up above the others. Next is this hallway, and the most sunken area is this by a foot or foot and a half. I then went with the water chamber here. There's supposedly a puddle in the corner here, and there's a bit of a water rat problem. They've got a giant ferret stationed here, keeping the rat population down. That's all they said. I thought that's an interesting detail, but what if we ramp that up more? The orc giant ferret trainer has one stationed here, and he has one with him when he patrols or is encountered anyways. Let's ratchet this up, and this is a tiny stream that accesses an underground, maybe river or large stream, and it's slowly dripping. This cave is actually described as having stalagmites and things, so it seems like a wet cave. There's water above or around this cave. So I added that there is an obvious small crack. Well, if the characters spend a turn searching, they find a crack that's seeping water fairly steadily into the pool. And they can hear the rats in the crack. So there's a swarm of rats kind of in the porous walls here, the cavernous walls. And if they take the time to take a pickaxe that they will find in the storeroom and open up that crack, they can get the water flowing at quite a pace, and they can actually use that to flood this area out. Now, it gets tricky. My PCs actually last night realized the steps right away. They're like, there's something up with this elevation change, and then they found the water cave, and they're like, oh yeah, we could flood this sucker out. And they're like, oh, we gotta save the prisoners though first and get them out. Now that's good deduction on their part, but if they explore further, this is a secret door. It is not watertight. The water, well, you could play it that it is. The water will flow out of this chamber once it gets really going, and start flooding this area out. And it will never get deeper than 2 feet, because then it comes up and it will either go out this way, or it will first come down this way. When it comes down this way, it will level out, and I'm having it so it will just go down into the pit trap. We've got a 10-foot deep pit trap here, and at the bottom there's ways for the water to find its way out. So if you can get this flowing full speed, just cranking out water, you could get this place under 2 feet of water, and this area under 1 foot of water, and that's where it would stay. So nobody's going to drown. The captured prisoners will certainly live, but it just makes the fighting environment more interesting. I have just a quick ruling that anybody who attacks or moves at their full rate, so like running speed or sprinting speed, certainly, they have to make a death ray, save versus death ray, or fall on their faces. Yeah, save versus death ray, or fall down. They'll slip. The slippery floor will take them out. And the movement rates are reduced heavily in the 2 feet area, and then less so, obviously, in the 1 foot depth area. I also have a tweak for this, a modification. If you're playing with 4 first level PCs only, and if you're playing with new players, they're not going to want to probably run multiple characters necessarily. So I convert all the orcs to goblins in this area. So the place is run by the orc lieutenants. I kept the 3 orc lieutenants that are encountered up here. There's 1, 2, and there's 4 here. I kept them as is, but all this area is the goblin warrens, their barracks, and I put 3 goblins stationed there. Those are the main changes. I also changed the backstory a bit so that the orc chief who did the raid, he took extra people because he's giving them to the evil cleric down in the second level. The orc chief has a magic sword. So in my storyline here, the evil cleric has gone through the crypts down here and raised them as for dead, as undead. He is looking for more bodies, and he's the one motivating the chief to kidnap and bring them back alive. The chieftain is feeding he's trickle feeding his captives, kind of one at a time, one a day, one every few days, whatever the pace you want, to the stairs leading down. He may throw them in, or these guys may show up and take a captive. If you talk to the kobold, he will indicate what he's seen. Maybe he's seen some of this go on, maybe he hasn't. Whatever's better for your situation. If you rescue these people, they'll tell you that, yeah, some of them, one or two have maybe been given to the cleric. They've disappeared through the secret door, and who knows what happens. Maybe they're taken away by skeletons. This guy's undead army he's massing. So yeah, he's gifted a magic sword to the chieftain, which the characters can get once they kill him, and that's motivating the chieftain to do the raids. So that motivates the PCs to adventure deeper into the dungeon. As written, there's no real motivation to do so. If they find this, which they're kind of told about by the captives. By the captives? No. There are no captives as written. They find out from somebody, some NPC here. They just walk away. They probably would not bother. Maybe they'll come back for the undead dungeon level, maybe. But this gives a little more urgency, I think, knowing that there's still a couple captives remaining, and they may be still alive before this guy turns them to undead. He can only cast the Raise Dead spell once a day, I guess. So, depending on how many captives there are, they may have a few days before they're all gone. There is some weirdness at the end of this dungeon, where the players find a fighter with magic armor dead on the table. Doesn't speak to who he is, but if he's searched, he has a letter, which is kind of just a dangling plot thread hook into the next adventure, which is called Queen's Harvest. And that I have not read it, but the overview, brief look I've done into it is that a queen is amassing some army, and they want to march on and take control of the town that the characters are from. The nearby town. It's only 3 hours away from this dungeon, because this lady, bad evil chick, has a claim to the throne. She's an illegitimate child of the current ruler, so thinks she deserves the throne, so is going to take it by force. The letter on the fighter is explaining, it's hinting, it's very vague and saying that she's on the rise. I can read the letter here somewhere. It's it's urgent and grave news. Peril stalks the land. A forest grows not far from here, commanded by one who walks in shadow with wickedness and madness. Her mind is warped. She is exploited, one of cunning and evil among her followers. I was told by the mercenary who escaped her service that this queen determines daily to bring a harvest of death to the land. Sounds cool and all, but what the frig is that supposed to mean? This is supposed to start off the next adventure. It says, to the wizard Kevorkian. That's a really lame name. I'm gonna have to change that, but the idea is you have to go find this wizard Kevorkian and see if he knows what this means. I did away with all that. That's garbage. I thought it's really great. It really gets the ideas flowing. But I changed it slightly and had I don't know. I don't have an explanation yet who the fighter is. I think I'd probably make him a hero who's been lost for a while. perhaps. My players are nowhere close to getting to here yet, so I'll come up with that. But the big change here I've done is that the evil cleric running this dungeon level has a treasure chest of some good stuff that you can find, and in there is a letter with the tiara. There's a really valuable tiara in that treasure chest, and they place this tiara valued at 2,400 gold. For 600 gold pieces per surviving character is what it's worth. And it doesn't mention, what was that for? Why is he just found it? I guess it's just a random. But I think the obvious change is this guy is trying to find favor in the eyes of this evil queen, and he's about to send her the chest with some gold and the tiara. A tiara fitting for a queen. So I rewrote the letter to say, basically asking for favor if she ever takes her, quote, rightful throne. And this evil cleric is offering his services with his undead army that he's amassing. So it all ties in nicely to roll into the next adventure, I think, a little better that way. Now, I haven't read the entirety of that adventure, so I may have to make more tweaks to make this work out better with it. But it seems like, once again, that was just another cool quirk that they wrote into this adventure, but didn't really capitalize on. So, benefits of, 40 years of role-playing experience and stuff like that. These guys were writing pretty decent adventures for early on in the industry. D&D would have only been 10 years old, maybe, when this was written. I'm not sure the exact dates, but so that's understandable. But I've had fun adding some tweaks to my liking, and all those tweaks and changes I will type up and include an edited map, and you can download that for your purposes if you want to run my edited version of the KingsFestival. To go along with it, I didn't know what the situation was. I was where I would be game mastering this, running this game, so I wanted to go with a smaller GM screen. So I made up this old school. This is how we used to do it in high school. We just grabbed some cardboard, and I printed out some of the tables that I needed and just pasted them on there. It's a pizza box lid. But the reason I bring this up is I did make a 3-page Dungeon Master screen printout, and I will have that link for downloads of that available as well. I just cut out a couple of the ones that I wanted for this. The rest I have pretty well memorized. But you may find that useful as well for your BECMI games. I could not find a BECMI Dungeon Master screen layout that was very, very complete, so I made my own. Maybe it'll be of use to you as well. That's my foray into BECMI Dungeons and Dragons. It's been a good couple weeks rolling some D20s. Yeah, have fun with it. Roll on.